Today's interview is an interview with Walter Smith. He's an attorney. He is the trailblazer with the Jefferson Council who uncovered a 239-page report that documents concern at UVA health systems, specifically concern tied to fraudulent billing practices, alleged medical chart changing to maintain performance standards and national rankings. And folks, the type of bullying and cronyism and backroom dealing that you hear of in Hollywood and movies and on the silver screen, and not necessarily in a hospital system that is well regarded for cutting edge and frankly saving people's lives. We're going to welcome Walter Smith to the show today. We're going to ask him questions that I think we all have. I want to start the interview by asking Walter Smith to introduce himself to the folks that are watching the interview. Walter, the show is yours, sir. A proud triple who and a man that bleeds orange and blue just like me. Please put yourself into perspective for the viewers and listeners.
Well, thank you, Jerry, for having me. I think it's very true that my family considers UVA the family school. So I'm a triple who. My years, I think, precede you by about 20 to 25. I was 75 to 79 in college. Took a year to grow up and actually get off the waiting list to get into law school. And at law school, discovered I could get an MBA. So from 80 to 84, I did that. Two-time past parent, 2011 and 2025. Two of my three brothers went to UVA. Probably half of my 20-some cousins went to UVA. It's the family school. So I became concerned that something was up, noticing the difference between my son from 2011 and my daughter who graduated in 2025. But, she ended up taking a gap year. So there was, which I think all of her friends told her was a great, she should have been first year 20 to 21, but she gapped that year, and all of her friends, that was full mask, full virtual. So I just noticed something was up, the way Ryan responded to Hyra Azure and the FUVA sign on the lawn. And it got me starting to look at what's going on at UVA.
The 239-page report that came out about a week ago today, we've now digested over many different sessions. It is red flags after red flags after red flags. First, the report and how you got to the moment or the point of publishing it in conjunction with the Jefferson Council. Can you offer that timeline?
Yeah. FOIA is a great aspirational thing about transparency and sunlight and the public's right to know. And UVA is, by its own acclamation, they're unequivocal in their support for free expression and free inquiry. But there's an asterisk for, except when we don't really want it to come out about what we're doing. So it takes a lot of persistence, and a normal person could not do it. It's just, there's so much, that academic world, there's so many different things. The UVA lawyer last night promised me that he would get me the threat assessment reports in 10 days. So Christopher Darnell Jones was named in more than one threat assessment. I had to win at the General District Court and the Circuit Court. I have other aspects of that at the Court of Appeals, but UVA did not appeal it, probably hoping that it wouldn't be a written opinion and make it more obvious for people. So that will be coming out, and I think that'll be very interesting. This document, the 239 pages from plaintiffs' lawyers, so this is written in light favorable to them. It's still astounding how much went on, how much smoke was billowing out under the door. And why did UVA hire Craig Kent and his number two, who already had some kind of air of something going wrong at Ohio State? It didn't, and this is snobbery. Come on, Ohio State's not UVA. UVA is higher quality academics. It's, but for whatever reason he was hired, and a culture followed. And this goes way back. I don't know if y'all remember the name Kiran Bhattacharya. He The kid was a genius, but apparently on the spectrum somewhat. And they ruined his life because he questioned microaggressions. And, Foley Lardner did pro bono work for him, probably millions. To confront the behemoth is beyond what normal people can do. So, getting the stuff out of UVA, but this was discovered because Cree Deeds in the Ryan controversy sent a very long demand, and there was reference to this in a letter that Hardy and Sheridan wrote to the medical faculty based on this report that was circulating. So the board had it. I asked for it, and UVA got it to me. Not exactly promptly, but they got it to me eventually. And clearly, there's something there. I think it's a total board governance failure that it festered for this long. And on that, I place the blame at Rector Hardy and Jim Ryan, that they would prefer to keep things that don't reflect well on UVA
You're an attorney.
undercover.
Put in perspective the alleged, I'm using the word alleged, the alleged criminality and malpractice that's present in that 239-page report.
I mean, the people who died from the doctor who was placed in charge of cardiothoracic department medicine, and apparently should not have even had privileges to be in the operating room. And that was in the service of DEI. And so that's outrageous. Just, you have a medical school, a well-recognized medical school. And what is it? Over half, it's like $3 billion a year. UVA is a $6 billion a year enterprise. UVA is supposed to be an educational institution, and the health system is supposed to be a medical institution. And education should be on top, and patient care should be on top. And it's outrageous that these outcomes, the substandard quality, was ignored for that long. Along with, why exactly did you hire Craig Kent? What? So, I think academic and medical, chasing the money, and implementing an agenda that's not academic or medical purely, has affected quality. And there's some people dead. There's some people blind or near blind. And great disruption. I thought on your show Thursday, where you talked about the doctor you knew, that was really helpful, because these are real people, and you know them to be upstanding, but they get treated poorly. Come on, board. What are you doing?
So much of the report had me flabbergasted. And flabbergasted is an understatement. So much of the report just had me angry. The pediatric oncologist who is going to his hierarchy, his leadership hierarchy, his superiors, and imploring them not to perform these medical procedures on children that are as vulnerable as children can be, dying, stricken with cancer, bone marrow procedures. Saying we don't have the resources, we don't have the staff, we don't have the infrastructure. To say it's risky is an understatement. And then for the response professionally to the pediatric oncology members of the pediatric oncology department. The response was, you're going to do it because the revenue is something that keeps our lights on. You know, it covers our overhead. I read that, and I, as a father of a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, I just put myself in the shoes of our children, and if the roles were us in that hospital room, and we go into this hospital thinking that they're going to get the best care possible, and behind the scenes this is happening, it made me sad, Walter.
Jerry, I had a bone marrow transplant in 2019. Wow, amazing. The care I got though, so this was VCU. They did a wonderful job. It's out. It is so incredibly specialized, and then you throw in that these are little kids, and it was just we need the. I think I heard that some UVA bond thing referred to students as revenue units. Your child's not a revenue unit. It's right. I mean, and if this is the overriding, look, making money is great. UVA's $15 billion endowment is baked because people made profits and then they contributed to UVA to use that money in a fiduciary way. I think, and didn't they just renew Craig Kent's contract at a big, I know he was the highest paid.
The highest paid UVA employee got a $500,000 raise, and they renewed his contract, and they did this while behind the scenes all this was going on. I have so many questions for you. I'm very curious if Craig Kent, when he resigned, and to say that he resigned under duress is factual. I'm curious if his contract was paid out in full. Do you have any intel on that?
No, I don't. UVA will hide all of them because they're confidential. I'm working on that. In the most recent dump of stuff, they referenced signing a settlement agreement on 6/29. So I asked FOIA on who was that. They have not gotten back to me yet. And they'll probably try to claim it's personnel. But maybe it was Kent, or maybe it was Jim Ryan. That since he resigned, I think the official date was the 27th or something like that. No, and that's look. I was general counsel for 2 large companies that had about 4,000 employees at one time, and if you're going to pay somebody money, you get a settlement, and you put a confidentiality in it. So, on top of that, the FOIA law has all sorts of exemptions about personnel information, and these are things that are going on in my FOIA battles that UVA really takes advantage of people who don't know. It's taken me about 5 years to finally break through some of the many ways. And so my hope there is really to get some cases published so other people, when they deal with universities or public bodies, can't have these games played with them. It's just not right at all.
I respect what you're doing. You're creating the blueprint or the playbook of how to, find transparency on what the community deserves to know, what the alumni base deserves to know, what the student body deserves to know. I have tremendous respect for what you're doing here. I think this is something that you are doing in uncovering essentially the skeletons that few people can do. Your legal background, your attorney background. Are you retired?
I own part of a business and do something, but yeah, I'm essentially retired.
You have time to do this.
Right. I'm a very fair price for the Jefferson Council.
Yeah, I would imagine he's a little facetious right there. That fair price is probably pro bono right there. I'll throw this to you here. the link to Jim Ryan and what Jim Ryan knew about this? What have your exhaustive efforts discovered?
Well, this thing festered forever. Jim Ryan's start date was in 2018, and by 2020, Kent had not been there long. People are raising their hands saying something's up here, and I don't, I don't think he wanted to act because of his great and good initiative, which that's all wonderful, aspirational, but the implication to me was, well, UVA may have been great, but it wasn't good until I got here, and that's a little insulting. So, and they didn't want to take their foot off the accelerator on DEI and doing all sorts of things. So, just no, he knew about this all along, but he did many other things like his community partnerships, and the free speech committee bothered me because it was I thought performative. Uh, and you discover these things when you start looking that, oh, when they establish a committee, they already know what they're going to come to as the conclusion. So they had 1.5 people who were maybe right of center, Joel Gardner and Mary Kate Carey, who I'd say was probably more like exactly in the center as a George Bush speechwriter type. And then they had all the others, and one of the things they poo-pooed institutional neutrality. I asked for that was my very first lawsuit on FOIA was they had a listening session. In the listening session, a couple people mentioned that they'd submitted things to the Free Speech Committee. And so I asked for them, and UVA withheld them as working papers of President Ryan. The official definition is a document prepared by or for the president for his personal or deliberative use. And I'm a total novice. I don't, but I'm like, this was submitted by third parties, and what they were. I think it was a professor specifically talking about. There was this underground current of the students thinking that speech was violence. Uh, and obviously he was against it. But an alumnus asked, "Can I see this?" And they hide it. Uh, I, I've since it took many tries, but finally in Henrico County, that they understand that just because UVA's interpretation, every single document is ultimate. Jim Ryan's the CEO, so it's for his use in making a decision. So you can't see anything. It's taken many years to beat that, but that is kind of this overriding thing at UVA that they will do to keep you from getting documents they don't want you to get. Um, I the hypocrisy really bothers me.
Same.
Uh, just give it to us. Let us see the wart. We want to make it better.
Right, right.
Uh,
We and that when you start hiding the warts, it causes the alumni base, the community, to ask what else is being hidden. It almost works against the University of Virginia, where it's like, I do something wrong with my wife. I'm sorry. I'll learn. I'll fix this. I'll get better. Right? The University of Virginia, on the other hand, in a lot of circumstances, is putting a plan in play to hide what they did. I'm very curious of what your take is. Why was Craig Kent allowed to resign? And then I'm hearing from multiple people paid out to the tune of $5 million, his contract. Why was he allowed to resign instead of being fired?
well, it's because UVA has an awful lot of money and it's not really accountable to anybody. And I would again reflect on, I think Robert Hardy was an institutionalist and he was going to defend UVA's reputation at all times and just sweep these things under the rug. Um, in my real world experience, I didn't hesitate not to pay people if they did wrong. I'm sorry, you're fired. And I would say, should Jim Ryan have been fired? The contracts for I did get Scott Beardsley's yesterday, I think. Very interesting. Has some differences from Jim Ryan's, but they're incredibly wow. Then you get tenure for life. That's 75% of your pay. Uh, uh, Beardsley, his salary is 1.3 million. His post provisions are 60%, or the dean of the business school, whichever's less. Uh, Very interesting. But in the real world, if it's really ugly, yeah, you'd settle. You wouldn't settle at full payment of paying out the whole contract. There's usually enough. Yeah, do we really want to have a fight over cause? To me, what's alleged sounds like there's enough for cause.
Well, I don't want to jump to conclusions, and you're more experienced in this department than I am. Just from my standpoint, it seems like you allow the resignation and you do the payout with a caveat or contingency that there's some kind of non-disclosure agreement that's ironclad, that should the NDA be pierced in any capacity, there's financial payment, repayment, or retribution to the university, which is the leverage UVA has for Kent keeping his silence. Because if you fire Kent, the exposure you may have is he then goes and airs the dirty laundry of what happened at the health system because of anger, bitterness, or some other reasoning. So it seems like my standpoint, just as a businessman, I'm a businessman that works in venture and real estate, not in the law like you do here, but it sounds like it's a hedge of what's the lesser of two evils here.
Oh yeah, no, you really want discovery and those documents to end up becoming available? No, no. It's but they've done this with poor Morgan Bettinger, who was slimed by Ziana Bryant. She was cleared by the Office of Civil Rights at UVA, but student council radicals, that wasn't good enough. They had to make her take training. Uh, and Jim Ryan, and this is part of, Ryan was great at raising money and he was personable, but he wanted to be a friend of the faculty and students instead of the president. And he also he refused to cross the line to make the leftists mad. And if he had gone in and done as he should and cleared Morgan Bettinger, the activists would have been mad at him. So he didn't do it, and he let her hang. They settled with Matan Goldstein. I assume they settled with Robin Hadley. I think they put the blame for Christopher Jones on her. But UVA said they couldn't discover the guns. I'm sorry, that's a lie. They had police power. They had the ability to go in there. Everything, there's deflection. There's not quite the truth to keep these. And it just, for me, why don't you just tell me the truth?
Yeah, especially at a school that's rooted in a foundation of honor and a single sanction honor code. The Kent, Melinda Kibbe, and Wendy Horton, this past Friday, there was some significant news that continues to fly under the radar. This was Friday, I believe, January 9th, where their legal team is asking for dismissal. I'm counting on you here to educate us on what's happening on their side of the fence.
All right, so this is, again, why it's pretty much impossible for a normal person to sue UVA. I don't know if you're aware that the health system has a religious discrimination case that's gone on for years over the COVID exemptions.
Yes, yes.
In a big case like this, the first thing you do is you try to get motion to dismiss. So I actually read the thing last night, and it was very technical on the RICO stuff. Uh, the lawyer who drafted it is an undergrad from UVA, and he's a very good lawyer. Boy, he knows RICO and all these things. And so, you attack the elements of what you're alleging to get it kicked out. And I would say, based on the reply, that, yeah, RICO's going to be a stretch. However, uh, the stuff on medical malpractice and wrongful term, yeah, guys, this is going forward. The question's going to be, is it going to go forward in federal court or is it going to go forward in a state court? And even then you have to get past immunity, sovereign immunity. And on top of that, the people who are the alleged wrongdoers, they're going to be indemnified by UVA, i.e., the taxpayers. So the religious lawsuit. It was about a year ago that they finished arguments on. So they had the motions to dismiss. They had all this. Now they're class certification, and it's been about a year, and the lawyer hasn't judged. The judge hasn't made a decision on class, and it should be a class. But if it's not a class, then that makes it more difficult for the plaintiff. So what we're seeing right now, only months old, it's going to go on for years. But yeah, the motion to dismiss, very well drafted, but you're attacking the really technicalities of what does it require to get a RICO claim.
The,
So
the motion to dismiss included a statement from the attorneys that representing, Kent, Kibbe, Horton and Company that said the 239-page report the Jefferson Council released with you as the trailblazer was nothing. They basically called it in the statement a nothing burger. And
yeah,
I was astonished that that was the response. I was also not surprised on this, though, that UVA in their statement, when contacted by the Richmond TV station, then NBC 29, and UVA's statement about the 239 pages, they almost throw the Kent, Kibbe, and Horton under the bus by saying, "Hey, we've washed our hands of them. They're no longer working for us."
yeah.
That's how
No,
they made mention of that.
yeah, it's the standard no comment. Uh,
Right.
look, you're defending, you're in a defensive position. I sort of get it, but again, let's go back to the beginning. You let this boil, fester, and didn't act and hit it, and now you've got the consequences. And it's yeah, I'm not surprised. The other lawyer, Baker Donaldson in D.C., I suspect that cost $1 million. Well, one thing that's really good you can get is to get the legal billings.
We saw that
And
with Woods Rogers and how much Woods Rogers was charging the University of Virginia.
Yeah, and this, so Hunton and Williams, McGuire Woods,
McGuire Woods.
and
I'm sorry, McGuire Woods, not Woods Rogers. You're right.
I'm astounded by lawyers who are like 10, 15 years younger than me, charging over $1,000 an hour. I mean, come on, people, it's ridiculous. My first hourly rate was $45 an hour.
As a capitalist and business owner, I don't mind the hourly rate charge. If the market's is gonna sustain it or accept it, then I'm all for it. But to your point, it speaks to the unlimited war chest the university has at its disposal, and the fact that anyone that goes toe to toe in any capacity with the University of Virginia is going toe to toe with the Brinks truck. I'm curious of this here. You mentioned the Beardsley contract and how you got your hands on the Beardsley contract. Goodness gracious, I could spend half an hour just talking about the Beardsley contract here. The speculation, if we read the political tea leaves, is Spamberger, who I believe is sworn into office in 72 hours or so as the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia's next governor. The speculation, the tea leaves reading, is that Board of Visitors at the University of Virginia will be nuked. People will be replaced. She'll leverage malfeasance and basically the same strategy that Governor Youngkin did with the termination of Bert Ellis, to clean house at the board and then potentially remove Beardsley from Carr's Hill, from the mansion. What are your thoughts on what's going to happen here with Beardsley? What's your crystal ball say?
Well, nothing says that UVA is not politicized like what's going on right now. Yeah, guys, can we get back to education and not indoctrination? It's just so outrageous because on top of that, I think I get the Darden stuff. I'm a Darden grad. Darden totally pushing ESG, DEI, sustainability, all of these things fully in line with what Jim Ryan was doing. I think ESG is a violation of fiduciary duty. They also approve of stakeholder capitalism. So it's like, I think you guys should be satisfied with him. Now, maybe coming out of the business world, he's not quite the believer that Jim Ryan was. Maybe this was just more pragmatic businessman. This is the way the wind was blowing. So if they can't accept him, UVA is just hopelessly lost on being an educational institution. I would have fired, I would fire the 9 deans who signed a letter saying we don't support the Board of Visitors. Wait, this is like we disagree with the board of directors. Well, you're fired. That's the real world. So that I was not paying attention during the Helen Dragus, Teresa Sullivan. Clearly, the back down, I think, was a huge failure because the faculty thinks they're in charge, and their employees, they're not in charge, and they should not object to people looking, particularly if you're supposed to be teaching people how to pursue truth. Jerry, I was after the Hamas and they were wetting their pants about academic freedom. And I was cited as a threat to academic freedom because I'd filed over 200 spurious FOIAs, don't know how they knew that, and asking for the syllabus for their class. I mean, what's wrong with us seeing what you're teaching?
Who cited you? UVA?
They circulated a petition that got like 1,000 signatures. This is the highlight. A threat to academic freedom. But to approve a course, again, I didn't want to know all this, but to have a course, you have to go to the department head and you have to submit. They're there, and you're a teacher. Why should you object to people wanting to know what you teach? And if they question you, shouldn't you be able to say, well, this is why I say this? But, for them, oh my goodness, it's a threat to academic freedom. They didn't complain that it was a threat to academic freedom when they were required to put a DEI statement in their peer review. Gee, isn't that a threat to academic freedom? But, it's just that Youngkin appointees were going to choose the president. It's like, guys, get a grip. But so I would be surprised, but because it's so outside of the bounds of normal what has been done. Even the lawsuit.
You would be surprised. Finish your thought. You would be surprised that if Beardsley is replaced. Is that what you're alluding to?
Just based on what should be normal, we have had this situation where the governor comes in and gets to appoint people. The lawsuit where the five were stopped it's a ridiculous ruling. To grant an injunction, it has to be irreparable harm. It wasn't irreparable harm. There was going to be a new governor, and the new governor could remove. Glenn Youngkin could have gotten rid of everybody on day one. The statute, it's clear. He can remove them. And all he has to do is write a letter, and it can't be challenged in court. I would have asked, back at that time period, I'd have asked everybody on every board, how many sexes are there? And if anybody did not answer two who was in charge of an educational institution, okay, I'm removing you. That's science. That's it. But this was led by Scott Surville. If you remember back when Burt was proposed, the campaign to have him not approved, and the editor of the Cavalier Daily was somebody named Eva Surville. Huh. I wonder if she was related to Scott. Come on. I mean, it's the politics that's been involved. And I love the irony of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But if your thought is diverse from us, we're not going to include you. It's and the UVA propaganda machine of UVA today. I think there are 50 people in the communications department. And just look, good stuff does go on at UVA. But guys, can we just have some truth? And faithful are the wounds of a friend. Everybody on Jefferson Council does not agree on everything. That you have Ukraine and all sorts of other things. But what they agreed on was we wanted UVA to somehow restore the honor system and to have an actual academic culture that taught both sides. I mean, that's what I experienced. I had a whopping 2 comments that were political, and they were both in law school. In 1980, after there was a total sweep in Virginia. There was one Democrat elected, and Bob Scott came in and said, "Well, at least Dan Daniel won," and all the rest of the class clapped. And in securities course, Professor Dooley said, Joe Kennedy was the first commissioner of the SEC, and who knew more about manipulating markets than him? And I'm sure most of the teachers were to the left, but they kept it legit. So, and we wanted lower costs. And I can tell you from my 2011 son to 2025 daughter, the cost was 3 times greater.
Right.
Was the product 3 times greater? No, the product was worse.
Of course not. Right. It's just an indication of bloated payrolls and capital improvement projects, CapEx projects that all they do is pass the buck and the cost on to, lower class, middle class, and even upper middle class households that are just feeling the pinch and the pain. I mean, I completely understand that. I'm very intrigued by your commentary here. Why is this story, the 239-page report, where you in a lot of ways have done the hard work with the report, and then you guys put the proverbial cherry on the top of the sundae, and all it takes is traditional media to start scooping the sundae and distributing it out to their viewers and listeners. Why has the media chosen not to offer coverage on this? But because besides our platform, and then on, was it Tuesday, January 13th in the evening, a Richmond TV station? Maybe that was Monday, January 12th, and then Tuesday, January 13th, finally NBC 29. Took nearly a week for traditional media to start offering attention to this. Why do you think that is?
I think you were onto it on your show. Charlottesville's a company town. You know, it's, I listened to the basketball game brought to you by UVA Health, and you know, it's and you know the problems in Charlottesville. The why is a house cost so much? I mean, my poor daughter, she lived in a place with 9 other girls. I think 10,000 a month of rent for a dump. 13th and John. I mean, it's a house in Lakeside that would be 200,000, but gee, if maybe if we didn't have so many bureaucrats and worthless courses, and the construction projects, the never-ending, you know, I noticed it with my daughter's sorority. You know, I went to a couple of her events, and the out-of-state students, they drove nicer cars than I've. You know, I'm cheap. They drove nicer cars. You know, they're clearly from very well-off families, and you know, the golden goose, they don't want to disturb it. And so there's clearly that, and I think also there's a little bit of ego and prestige, and at the governance level of we really don't want to get blamed for this. So finally, it got undeniable when people could see the documents. And this has been true of a lot of the stuff we've uncovered. And Cavalier Daily just says the far right Jefferson Council. And that's our, or the racist Jefferson Council. I have another new one today that UVA used to tape the Senate faculty meetings, faculty Senate, and the executive committee. Well, for some reason, they stopped taping them. So I discovered that the videos of the meetings weren't there for the last 2 academic years. And I said, well, I'd like you to send me the videos. And they said, no, we stopped doing that. And they stopped doing it because we uncovered when they wanted to censure Bert Ellis. Oh, well, we don't want this to appear to be political, so we need to frame it that it's all about student safety. Because, you know, Bert, who's like a 5'10", normal sized guy, wanting to cut a sign off the lawn, woof, such danger. Christopher Jones can have a gun in his room, and yeah, well, we'll look the other way for that. But Bert, oh my, he's a threat. Just the hypocrisy, and so there was another one where, and this one really offended me. The guy taught Bert at business school, and they've gone through this long character assassination to finally get to their point. And he goes, yeah, well, Bert really loves UVA from 50 years ago. Ha 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 ha. And they think they're so, it's impossible for them to be wrong, and they're so right. And they won't even listen to a contrary viewpoint. It's the closed-mindedness and the way they draw ranks. And I think that's also, so I think perhaps it was mentioned to some of the, I mean, the Daily Progress, you know, it's going to die.
Yeah.
But, you know, guys, I love that Rush Limbaugh had an expression, said, you know, and this was years ago, that for the media was treat all politicians the way you treat Republicans. Look, guys, there's a standard of truth. Just, you should always question people's motives. You should there's nothing wrong with that, but do it the same to all people. And you know, I don't think the law school is doing that anymore. It's there's a lot where they need to get back on course.
Well said. A couple more questions for you. I found the hypocrisy really hit me when Virginia Democrats, we're talking, you know, delegates, state senators, are inquisitive, investigating the University of Virginia and it's the Board of Visitors hiring of Scott Beardsley. and the deal that interim President Mahoney entered with the Department of Justice, and its handling or its eradication of DEI. That was front and center on the agenda with Virginia Dems, yet no mention with Virginia Dems at all of what's happening with this health system scandal alleged and its links to Jim Ryan, who still to this day appears to walk on water and takes a handful of loaves and some fishes and feeds the thousands, if not the tens of thousands. Explain to me why, and this is just two guys talking here, our elected officials, our most powerful people, are they're cherry picking, what was it called? A selective outcry is, I think, selective outrage is the terminology Judah used, which I think is a perfect fit. That hypocrisy hit me, and it called us to bring it to attention on yesterday's show. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Well, it's been all along.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very selective and so outrageous. But the Board of Visitors, when Youngkin was elected, there was an unannounced 3-year extension to Jim Ryan's employment agreement. His employment agreement had just like Beardsley, a little over a year before it's supposed to terminate, you're supposed to start talking about, are you going to continue me or not? But gee, amazingly, they managed to extend Ryan's for 3 years. And then, this was back when the Faculty Senate still taped its meetings, you have the faculty rep to the board saying to the rest of the faculty, well, this is the reason we extended it for 3 years was to protect Jim Ryan. I asked for, this was at the time where they released texts from Bert's phone that were not public records, but he called somebody a numbnut, which, oh my goodness, it's the outrage. So I said, okay, and I learned that requesting emails was the way UVA charged cost was prohibitive and designed to chill. Okay, we're going to charge you $3,000, and we're going to find a couple hundred documents, and we're going to withhold them all as working papers. So I really have held off on this stuff till I get some some Court of Appeals rulings that the games they play. I paid $793 for lawyer bills from UVA, whereas the Attorney General's office charged me $73 or $48, $56. Yeah. I mean, so I asked for the text between Whit Clement and Jim Ryan from, I guess, Youngkin's election to March 4, whatever the date was. And there were 34 texts, but they've withheld them all. But, I mean, shouldn't the public know what they were doing to give? So, yeah, it's funny. You talked about loaves and fishes. My less than nice nickname for Ryan is Messiah Jim. Because he was the light bringer. He's going to bring good. But yeah, the politics, you look at the people who've been put into the deanships or prominent positions, almost everybody has a tie to Obama. Melody Barnes at the Karsh Institute of Democracy. Another thing that frosts me is save our democracy. We're a republic. We had Jefferson and Madison and Monroe, and we can't even get this basic of civics about our history. The greatest scholar on Jefferson Hemmings taught at UVA for 30 years. We wanted a debate because the Woodson Institute puts out material that says Jefferson fathered 6 children and was a rapist. It's not true. We don't know the exact truth, but can we at least talk about it and get the facts straight? So did you know that after Monticello said Jefferson was the father in '96, that there was a commission of scholars called the Scholars Commission. And they prepared 13 of them. They prepared a 300-page report. And their conclusion was it's almost certainly not true, with one guy saying it could be true. And here you are at a school founded by Jefferson, and they demean him. The man's a giant. Yeah, I'm not perfect. I don't know you, Jerry, but I'm pretty sure you're not
I'm
perfect.
not perfect. Far from it.
The guy is a giant. We hold these truths to be self-evident. It was the most radical thing ever said, and they can't give the guy some modicum of respect. And they're getting paid well for it. So, there's so much that needs to be fixed at the school to get it back to. But yeah, the politics is just taken. Did you know that the contributions, the federal election contributions at UVA, go 95% to Democrats? Yes. I think the public school with the least, it was VCU, and it was like 92%. And I think that's probably because so much of it is medical.
This is the public school with the least in the Commonwealth?
Yeah,
Okay, in the Commonwealth.
with
Okay.
the least skewed. Believe it or not, I think the least skewed school that I checked was W&L,
That makes
which
sense.
was 85-15.
Yeah, I would imagine Washington and Lee and Hampton Sydney probably in that category
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I didn't do Hampton Sydney. I bet Hampton Sydney was more like 60-40,
Right,
a
right.
little saner. But 95-5 is just, hey guys, in a country that's 50-50, what's going on?
But that's higher education in totality. That
Yeah,
is that
it
that's
is.
that's reflection. That's a reflective of. I mean, you'd find the same in the Ivy League, if not more skewed.
Oh, it's crazier. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's actually worse. Yeah.
This is fascinating. We're going to air the interview in totality. I think I'm going to kindly ask you if we can get you back on the program at another time, because I think there's a lot to unpack with the Beardsley contract that you have.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious, I could have spent an entire hour interviewing you on Beardsley, and we only kind of scratched the surface. I want to close with this. Anything else that we have not gotten to from your professional notebook that's on your desk that is important to paper the trail that I should be talking about moving forward that you found? I trust your
Well,
judgment here.
well, assuming the UVA attorney gets me the documents within 10 days, which was last night, I think the threat assessments are going to be really important and instructive, and it's another one of these things where FOIA they play tricks with you. So it's a different. Threat assessments are covered by 23.1805. And when the Virginia Tech shooting happened, they went and they changed language so threat assessments were not to be released; they were exempt. Then they wrote in an exception where unless there's a crime charged. So clearly, what happened there with Christopher Jones was discoverable. But UVA contended that it was a scholastic record because it was about a student. And so, and they do the reports that they released finally when he pled guilty. Every single one of those redactions is wrong. All it is, it's student name. Under UVA, you couldn't write about the football team or the basketball team. Well, it's a student name, and it's not so. It's taken years to finally get to the point where I can get it. And it's so arcane, the interaction, that normal people, I mean, the judges bought the argument. So it took a while for the judges to get but I think that's going to be really, but we still don't know. Did they make Robin Hadley fall on her sword for this? Why didn't Tim Longo, who I understand is a fine man. Why didn't he go in and get the gun? Why didn't they call in the state police? There's whole laws about they're not there. Anybody that has a gun has to have the approval of Tim Longo. It's so outrageous, and so why did they go quiet on this? Why did they go easy on Christopher Jones? So I think that's going to be a big one. But no, this is going on, and we're finally getting some. And I think look, folks. All we want is for you to demand Jim Ryan said the answer to truth speech that offends is more speech. Okay, tell us the truth. Tell us what's going on. It's a shame that I have to work so hard to get things but I've got time, I've got money, and I've learned a lot about FOIA. So if people want to do it, I'll be happy to help. It's not that hard, and it would be nice if more people asked hard questions.
Amen, brother. Walter Smith, guys, the alumni base, the UVA community is lucky to have this man doing this work. And I'll tell you, it's not just about transparency and communication and doing what's right. I think if you navigate that redacted report with the triple murder, you're gonna, and this is by no means putting pressure on your shoulders, but you're gonna offer a sense of closure for the families of the 3 fallen football players. Because one of the mothers went on record with the media and said,
Yep.
This report that was sent to me is so redacted that it's absolutely nothing. And she literally said it was worthless. And she said to the media, all I want to know is what happened to my son.
Yeah.
And when she made that comment, that is, as a parent, you're a parent, I'm a parent, that caused emotion for me.
Yeah. And she's right. That one, so how much UVA's, I'm sorry to keep going, how much UVA as a company town is so amazing. The Daily Progress sued over those reports. And I think they were winning because once you understand scholastic record 23.1289 something, and FERPA, and then how these things interact. This is just news. It's like so and so the Cavalier Daily. These were not things that were kept in the registrar's records. They are not scholastic records.
It's like Ja'Cory White, the basketball player for the Virginia team, has a injury to his left hand, and he has to wear a brace to be able to play in the game.
Right.
That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this isn't what's kept but then you have to understand threat assessments. So yeah. But UVA's policy has been if it's a student name, we're going to redact it and claim scholastic records. I actually won on that on a different issue. But this one, the Daily Progress sued, and I think it must have been clear they were going to rule for Daily Progress. And UVA did the trick of recruiting Jim Hingley to come in and say, oh no, this is a criminal investigation and it would interfere to release this. They did the same thing with Hingley over masks. Do you know why Virginia and southern states have the anti-mask law?
No.
It's to get rid of the Klan. So when the protesters, the encampment was going on, Longo and they recruited Hingley to come meet with them, and that was they recruited Hingley to modify how he was going to enforce the mask law. So basically, UVA asked him not to enforce the mask law, so the protesters could do that. It was just so ironic, and they did the same thing in this Daily Progress case. That in the midst, he intervened to stop the reports, claiming it was a criminal investigation. So the way UVA works with all the friendly media, its own media, the way they come in, and even the state senators, uh, there's a lot. How many people are using text to transact business and it's not being preserved, or Signal? In one of the emails that was produced, Robert Hardy connected Rachel Sheridan and Rusty Connor and said, "I think you all have Signal also."
Yep.
Well, if you're using Signal for public business and it's going to auto delete, you're deleting public records,
You're
which
deleting
of
public
course
record.
they
Is
all are because there's so much politics going on.
And that's the intention. That's absolutely the intention. I appreciate your time. We'll connect via email. I think this is a relationship that I hope on our end will be one that has many conversations with you and I, because I think what you are doing it takes courage. I think it's something that will contribute to your legacy. I think it's something that, I sincerely mean that. I think it's something that our community, the alumni base, the UVA community, Charlottesville community, goodness gracious, needs people like you. So I want to thank you for your patience, and thank you for spending the hour and change with us today, Walter. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you very much, Jerry. It's nice to finally have people who can get beyond the far right Jefferson Council and actually read the stuff that's going on. And now, can we have a discussion?
I appreciate you. I certainly will do that. I hope you have a good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. You too.
Our pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Walter Smith. He is an attorney, and he is the trailblazer with the Jefferson Council who uncovered the 239-page report that has, alleged nefarious criminal malpractice, red flags all over it. I encourage the legacy media, print, radio, and television to have courage with its coverage, because our community and your viewers and listeners, your advertisers, we may not be advertisers to the tune of UVA Health, but we're certainly contributing to keeping your business model in operation. We deserve to know the truth. And to the University of Virginia, I'm reminded of a saying from a fellow real estate colleague. I would rather disappoint you now than disappoint you later. If there is something that's going on within your model or your university that you know is not right, disappoint us now than disappoint us, later on. Because I'm sorry, we will fix this, here's what happened, the communication goes a long way with building trust and showing that you're willing to fix the mistake. When you start hiding it and keep hitting it in under lock and key for it to be discovered by us through exhaustive FOIA efforts, that's when people like me and people like Walter and start raising their hands up in the air and say, hey, what's going on here? That ain't right. So thank you to Walter Smith. Thank you to Judah Wickower. This is the I Love CVille Show. My name is Jerry Miller. So long.